and that this was a very, very bad matchup for the Nuggets. After watching game one, my caution is gone, and my optimism is boundless.
That was funny.
Funny?
Yeah, that was fun.
They're serious, man.
Jokic and Jamal Murray shots that were so ludicrous, both of them elicited laughter or smiles from the Lakers, to me are things that are not sustainable.
Jokic has to put it up. Falling away, puts it up. Bang! Nikola Jokic!
Nick Wright has selected
Wow.
the Los
in
Angeles
six,
Lakers.
not even seven.
So close.
When it comes to the most one-sided rivalries in NBA history, the most notable one we have right now is Lakers versus Nuggets, more specifically, Jokic versus LeBron James. And if you've followed basketball the past 4 to 5 years, you know the biggest LeBron James fan, bar none, is Nick Wright. And the funny thing about Nick, not only a massive LeBron James fan, but one of the biggest critics of Nikola Jokic. As Nick back in the day said Jokic, he'd never won a title, was an undeserving MVP, and even Chris Paul as late as 2022 was the better overall player.
Did you research, study, care about league MVP for 70 years of NBA history? And now it's just a thing. He's a very good player. He also won one of the weakest MVPs we've ever seen. I could name 10 guys you want on the court before I mention Jokic,
Giannis
right?
is number one.
Was playing Joel Embiid the whole fourth quarter. And your team, Monty Williams, coach of the year, goes centerless rather than play Jokic. And I'm the hater.
And Nick Wright, much like LeBron James, is kind of a frontrunner. As back in 2021-2022, when he was down Jamal Murray, no MPJ, hadn't got Aaron Gordon yet, Nick back then was puffing his chest out, he was proud to be anti-Jokic, and trashed his guy 24/7 when his two best teammates were Will Barton and Monte Morris. But now this guy 2 years later, curled up in a corner somewhere, begging for LeBron James to have more help. And I think most NBA fans at this point, they kind of realize Jokic is one of the best players of all time, and offensively, maybe the best to ever do it. As in my view, there hasn't been an offensive player this dominant, this consistent, since Michael Jeffrey Jordan in the early 1990s. And of course, Jordan and Jokic couldn't be more different, but the one common through line is being consistent. Some guys for a playoff series, they can have one great night and 2 to 3 nights where they're pretty damn good. But Jokic and Jordan, for really an entire series, always consistent and always showed up. And Jokic at this point is so great, so dominant, such a basketball machine. He's a walking 30, 15, and 10 if he wants to get it without breaking a sweat. And much like a Jordan, a Magic, a Larry Bird, those guys' numbers came within the flow of the offense, and their overall stats took a backseat to the team winning. When talking about truly great players, adapting to a team system, a team concept, Jokic is the second coming of Tim Duncan. And to kind of nail this point home, looking at the Joker's last 15 playoff games, these stats are simply absurd. 31 points, 14 boards, 10 assists, nearly 60% shooting, 44% from 3, with a 13-2 record. And those 2 losses you see, one versus Miami, one versus Phoenix, were by 3 points and 5. And like I said earlier, Jokic is very, very consistent. In his last 9 playoff series combined, he has a whopping 2 games under 40% shooting, compared to 14 games above 60% shooting. I don't want to be too hyperbolic in saying this, but the Joker's combination of great scoring, efficiency, and all-time great passing, I mean, debatably the best offensive player of all time. And if you want to talk peak offensive impact, peak offensive value, putting all those skills into one, I don't know if any player ever had this much positive impact on his team's performance at one end of the floor. And looking back at Nick Wright, I just gotta hammer it home once again. This guy being so anti-Jokic just 3 years ago, for it to turn so quickly, I mean, it's actually miraculous.
History is going to judge me fairly and right on this, and history is going to come very quickly.
If you were on Nick Wright's side of the fence, it's like being against Michael Jordan in 1989. Yes, he had playoff losses, but eventually became a 6-time champion. It's like being anti-Kobe in 1999. Yes, had some playoff failures, but eventually was a 5-time champion. I mean, imagine someone in 1997 saying Tim Duncan would never be anything or amount to an all-time great NBA player. 20 years later, that take is one of the worst of all time. Now multiply that by 25 times, and that's Nick Wright's takes his slander for Jokic aging poorly into the 2040s.
I have the benefit of knowing with utter certainty, with every fiber of my being, that history is going to judge this opinion favorably.
And one reason I give Nick Wright so much crap is, unlike other analysts, this guy actually believes what he's saying. Someone like Gilbert Arenas just says outlandish things for the sake of saying outlandish things. Nick Wright's Jokic slander is LeBron belief. He believes that to his core. And speaking of LeBron James, Jokic at this point is reaching LeBron James levels of being invincible as well as inevitable. And what do I mean by that? In this series versus LA, Denver down 15 points, 10 points, 20 points, whatever it may be. At no point were you worried, were you rattled, thinking the Joker in Denver wouldn't make a run to be competitive. And of course, every single game, they did that. Game 2, Jamal Murray, the gut-wrenching game winner that ripped LA's heart out. But even worse, I would say Game 3 was more gut-wrenching. As Lakers in this game, a quick 8-0 lead, their defense was flying, they were clicking on all cylinders. And for the majority of the first half, they were up by 8-10 points, a pretty sizable lead. But to close that first half out, Denver, a quick run before you know it, a 2-point game at half. And in the blink of an eye in the third quarter, 5 minutes in, Denver, up by double digits, and never looked back. And to give some perspective, the Lakers this season, when leading at halftime, were 33-5. Versus the Nuggets, they're 0-3. Again, the confidence the Joker inspires in fans, including myself, the feeling of being invincible, something I haven't felt since Kobe Bean Bryant. As when it comes to those two players, if their teams are down by 10, 8, even like 5 points, you always thought those players would find a way to get the job done. And Jokic at this point, whether you want to admit it or not, is reaching those type levels of being unstoppable and downright inevitable. And last but not least, looking at LeBron James, Anthony Davis. For these two clowns, I have zero sympathy. After last year's West Finals, LeBron James pulling the fake retirement stunt, I have zero, I repeat, zero respect for a stunt like that. And then later in the summer, what did this guy do? He called himself the Sun. A dude called himself the Sun, basically the center of our universe, and said he's always shining and always on. I mean, who does that? And then looking at Anthony Davis, LeBron's court jester, before game 1 of the season, this dude, he said, yeah, me and Bron, we've been talking, all the noise this summer, we kind of said, we're ready, we're going to take him on, we're going to beat him. Then what happens? Game 1 in Denver, the ring ceremony, they lose. Game 2, Kobe statue night, they lose. Game 3, LeBron cracks 40K, then they lose. This Lakers-Nuggets so-called rivalry is the ultimate big brother versus little brother series. And at this point it's gotten so bad, I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron James actually retires this time. And one last thing I do want to say, if Denver wins the championship, Jokic plays fantastic, they go back to back. I mean, this dude's overall resume in just the last 4 years alone: 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs, 3 MVPs, while averaging 30, 13, and 8 on crazy shooting splits. That resume right there by itself, it dwarfs Kevin Durant, Moses Malone, and some other all-time great NBA legends. What we are witnessing right here in Nikola Jokic is a guy who's nearly 7 feet tall, has the speed of a dump truck, has no vertical game, who is dominating the best athletes, defenders, and players of all time. If that doesn't prove basketball's a skill game, I don't know what will. As again, Jokic send LeBron packing for the 2nd straight postseason. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.